go ahead and call the Operations Committee together for February the 14th, 2022. We'll have the prayer by Commissioner Val, and then we're going to have the Pledge of Allegiance by Commissioner Wandale. Please stand.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Heavenly Father, we come to you tonight thanking you for every blessing that you give us each and every day. Lord, most of all for our salvation. Lord, for our families, our churches. Lord, our faith in you. Lord, we thank you tonight for this group of people who are willing to serve your people. Father, we're thankful that there are still men and women who are willing to step forward and do the jobs that many do not want to do. Lord, we pray, Father, that you give them the wisdom of Solomon. When you asked him what he wanted, he didn't ask for riches, he didn't ask for fame. He asked for wisdom to judge your people. Father, tonight we ask for that same wisdom down on this body. We ask you forgive us of our sins, make us worthy, Lord, to receive that blessing. And as they deliberate tonight, Lord, give them your wisdom, your discernment to do what's best for your people. All this we ask in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen.
Amen. Salute. Pledge. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Next, we got the approval of agenda. Do we have any additions to the agenda?
Motion to approve.
I think we got it. Yeah, you want to add this to the agenda?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Commissioner McCamey wants to add to the agenda some opposition to a state bill and House bill that we submitted from the County Commission. And if we can get a second on that, to add that to the agenda. And we can do that under the adventure tourism while Stephanie is up.
I'll second the motion.
Got a second. Any discussion? That's that little handout I gave you.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay. Thanks.
We got a motion and a second to add this to the agenda. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Now we have to, let's approve the motion as amended, or the agenda as amended. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Next is appearance of citizens. If we have any citizens present who would like to come forward this committee for anything that's not on the agenda. Seeing none, we'll move on. First is the Highway Department, request by Gary Long, Road Superintendent.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and committee members. I just wanted to come by and talk to you a second. I know there's some money, some ARP money that's going to be available for some infrastructure, which we'd just like to go ahead and get on your radar. And I got a meeting tomorrow afternoon, I think at 4:30 at the Health Department. We'll be up there trying to find out if we can get some money for some expenditures on some roads and bridges, and talk about the inflation that we've had in our department and some of our supplies and fuel and things of that nature, and see if we can clarify and see if, in fact, roads and bridges are or are not infrastructure. To my knowledge, they are, but we've been, some have an opinion that maybe it's not covered under this infrastructure program. But I'm here for, if you got any questions, or you wait till tomorrow, that's all up to you, but we just appreciate the opportunity to come and talk to you. Appreciate the job you all do.
Commissioner Wandale.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Gary, what would you say is your most pressing needs? You know, is it the bridges? Is it all roads? I'm sure it's all,
Yeah.
but.
Well, it's a package deal of all of them. I mean, with the inflation like we've had in the past, we've got some bridges that need some replacing, and we've got more asphalt that we need to lay, and the cost of fuel. And the material, our tiles, some of our tiles have gone up as much as 72%. Now, that's from last year bid process to this year. Say nothing about the fuel, and you all know what fuel's done in the last 2 weeks or a week, you know. And we just, and, you know, all this is a concern and an impact on our budget, and we'd just like to have an opportunity to talk to you, answer any questions, and we'll be at the meeting tomorrow. And thank you for allowing me on here tonight.
Just a follow-up question, Gary. How much capital do you set aside for capital improvement each year? I mean, So in other words, if that ARP money earmarks, say, $5 million for roads, how much annually would that impact going forward?
Oh, that'd impact a bunch, because I just think it's ARP money. Is that one time or is it repeat money?
No,
It's just one time.
Yeah.
No, it'd be a great improvement on ours, because we spend $1 million, sometimes a little more, depending on what we can save out of the other codes.
Yes.
And I think in our original budget, there's somewhere around $500,000 or $600,000 for asphalt, possibly more, depending on the year and the revenue, which we all know that the revenue's been up in the last couple of years. So a lot of it depends on what else we buy. If we decide not to buy some equipment and put it all in asphalt. Yes,
Thank you.
thank you.
Our diesel fuel's almost doubled
Yes, yeah.
after
Yeah.
this weekend.
Diesel
Yeah.
fuel, it's
Would it be fair to say that fuel for all your equipment is a pretty significant part of your budget?
yes, we're gonna be quite a bit on it, yes, but it won't be nearly as much as the materials and tile and rock and things,
Yeah,
yeah, asphalt.
Yeah.
See, yeah, but that,
Because
yeah,
they're just big numbers. to
Sure.
begin with.
yeah,
I do it, just, I'm gonna give you a little support, okay, what I'm gonna say is that it is my opinion that roads and bridges are infrastructure.
Thank
And
you.
I hope that the feds agree with us.
thank you.
Commissioner McCamey.
Gary, from what I understand, there's two different pots of money. There's the infrastructure bill that was passed, and then there was the American Rescue Plan monies that the county's gonna get. Which one are you talking about?
Both of them.
Both.
Yeah, if there's any money in for infrastructure, but then we've had some meetings over here and it was stated that infrastructure wasn't roads, it was internet and, computers.
I don't know. I know the
Well,
infrastructure
that's-
bill,
I don't, you know,
that's what they're saying,
Yeah.
roads and bridges, in the infrastructure bill. But now the ARP money, I
Broadband.
don't know. I don't know what's considered infrastructure in that bill or not, but I know that's,
So Randy Walters is going to be prepared to answer all of that for you. So under the interim final rule, infrastructure was clearly water, sewer, broadband. And then when they
that's
issued.
ARP funds, right?
Yes, on
Okay.
the ARP, American Rescue Plan Act, and then they call it local recovery dollars. Then when they issued the final guidance, that does include any kind of road or culverts and all of that. So that was clarified. They also opened it up a lot, and I'm going to defer to Randy on a lot of that in terms of expertise. So what they did is, after input from local governments, there was this component where you had to calculate your revenue loss. Anything that was covered under revenue loss, you had more leeway with to spend in different areas. And then after public feedback and comments from local government and state leaders, what they did is they issued basically a blanket $10 million for all local government is considered revenue loss. So that $10 million can be spent pretty much without limitation. The remaining I can't remember what amount we have, I think it's 4.9 extra. That's going to have to be tied to the certain restrictions that the federal government has for how that can be spent. The infrastructure bill, they have not released how that's going to work, to my knowledge, with the application process. So there are going to be numerous grant programs under the infrastructure that are eligible for roads. So they're going to have a federal component, anything that's eligible under that federal plan. Then they have various pots that are available for local government. So they're going to have, under the infrastructure bill that's completely separate from Recovery Act, they have raise grants, they have safety grants, they have, you probably got an email from David Connor for Tennessee County Services, where they have some funds that will go for even things like school buses, local bridges that are not on par with your federal highway bridges. All of that's going to be covered under that infrastructure bill, as well as broadband under that infrastructure bill. So then, to make it more confusing, you have what the federal government originally said was clear, their priority, water, sewer, stormwater. What's happening now is the state of Tennessee received some recovery plan dollars. And then under the state of Tennessee, through TDEC, they are allocating counties, all 95 counties across the state of Tennessee, funds to utilize for water, sewer, and broadband. So Anderson County is eligible for another $5 million under that. We will receive a direct allocation, and then all the cities are receiving funds. So City of Oak Ridge, for example, is getting over $200 million, and then each of the cities, and you're gonna get that information tomorrow as well. And then, so at Budget Committee, then we also just dealt with, we got a call, Department of Health has their rescue plan monies. They are making all 95 counties eligible to receive funds for renovations for the health department if the counties will match. And it doesn't have to be, it can be general fund or it can be out of recovery dollars. So Budget Committee actually passed a matching component, but did not touch the recovery portion or make a recommendation because that's still to be addressed at a workshop. But in order to receive that money, Budget Committee committed out of the general fund. If, once you all get through your workshops and your decision-making time, you want to go and unwind that and say, no, we'd rather it come out of recovery money, you can go, do another budget amendment and clarify that.
Okay, and the meeting tomorrow night is in this room at 4:30
It's at the Health Department conference room.
at the health.
So because that renovation from the match is on there, if anyone wanted to come early, Charles is going to walk you through the health department like 10 minutes before your meeting starts or 15 minutes before, not at some kind of big room by room, but if you wanted to see what the health department looked like.
Okay, so if widening Park Lane or something in Gary's future, we could use infrastructure money for that under the safety part?
I'm not an expert on that part, so I reached out to Rural Planning Organization and I said, am I reading this correctly on all the local components of infrastructure? And he said, yes, but you missed a couple. There's school buses and there was something else that I'm not remembering at this moment. But it's kind of like, to my knowledge, it's kind of like the recovery plan. I don't think they've fully come out with how they're going to allocate. Like it took a little while. If you'll recall, I think we had our first workshop on the rescue plan in June or at the end of June. And we were expecting final guidance to come out in September. Then we expected it in October. Then we expected it in November. It finally came out in January, I believe. So I think they're walking through the same process. Same thing on that TDEC $5 million. They came out with their draft plan, and what they were going to do with their draft plan is all the monies they were going to give to counties, and there was going to be no direct allocations to any cities. So then after public comment period, they rewrote the draft, and now cities are going to get monies as well as the county. And so I think, I'm just guessing when they say first quarter application processes will come out, I'm assuming that they're working through how they're going to distribute those funds. So when I asked Don Brown at Rural Planning, which handles transportation, he indicated that it was, to his knowledge, still not decided if the money would be directly allocated to local governments or if it would be coming through TDOT. But yeah, I mean, safety was one of those. Also, if there's some kind of economic impact or regional importance or local importance. So, all of those arguments can be made for fixing a road or a bridge.
Before you sit down,
Sure.
Mayor, did I hear correctly that Oak Ridge's portion was going to be $200 million?
No, I'm sorry. Did I say that?
Yeah.
That was a
Or
weird.
that's what I heard. Yeah.
2 million,
Okay.
I think it's over 2 million,
Oh,
so.
okay, I started saying, they ain't gonna need no tax increase.
No, I
Yeah.
can't remember, I mean, it's been a while since I looked at their number. I can't remember if it's like 2.3 or 2.5 or
Okay.
6. I just can't remember the number, but
All
it's
right.
over 200 million. I mean, 2 million, 2 million.
Shade under 200 million.
And then the other thing about money for the school buses, because we, the school system, they contract that out.
Yes.
How would that go? Would that go to the contractors?
I don't know. The infrastructure, so with the.
So we'll know tomorrow night more, or tomorrow
Yes,
afternoon.
well, I don't know how much more we'll know about the infrastructure bill quite yet. The United States Treasury put out a summary guidance document that's very helpful, and then they also put out a full guidance document that's, I think it's 98 pages. So I'm sure the same thing will happen with that infrastructure. They probably have identified, here's where we want to put it. And then they also have electric vehicle, that's another component if you want to put stations, and there's some other things that you can do, pedestrian sidewalks and amenities. You can also do that under that infrastructure bill.
Yeah.
But I don't have a big binder or anything on it yet, like on the details.
Okay, all right, thank you.
You're welcome.
Anything else for the mayor before Gary comes back up? Thank you, Mayor.
Okay.
Commissioner Anderson.
Yeah, kind of, one of them touched on what the mayor was saying about lost revenue. Have you calculated at all, when everything was shut down, how much of the fuel tax?
No, I don't have that figure with me, but yes, and of course, that's another thing we've talking about essential workers, and your Homeland Security deems in their description that your public workers and highway workers are definitely essential workers, as are your sheriff's department and ambulance department. And in some times past, that's not been the issue. Some of them seem to think so. I mean, we didn't shut down, we didn't go home, we didn't work from home. We was there every day, my employees was there. I mean, I don't know, I don't understand how it'd be an option, for us to work from a house. That don't seem feasible for me. I didn't know it was an option, been there a few days, but that's,
And the next thing's the asphalt. I know in the fall, Rogers was kind of behind on production, I guess, before they shut the plant down. Have you got any updates from them?
It's the springtime of the year. Of course, last year was, busy for them because the economy was good. There's a lot of commercial development going on, and they've had the same issues that some of the other departments have had. They would take 3 crews to make 1 crew because of COVID and exposure and that kind of thing. So they've had some of the same issues as the rest of the world. But now, and I'd say in a few months, of course, today they've paved a couple of weeks ago over on Alcoa Highway. Depends on the temperature and where they're at in the scheduling on the roads. But yeah, it won't be long. Weather like it's coming up this week, they'll be wanting to pave.
Okay. Thank you.
Anybody else? Gary, I've got some input. County commissioner, well, first we had an investor that's going to, do a development there on Longmire.
Yes, sir.
155, 159 homes.
147 homes.
County
yeah.
commission, planning commission approved it. It's been approved by county commission too. But I would like, and I think Longmire is a county road.
It is part of it,
And
part
it
of the
goes into
city.
25W in the city, is to be able to look at that because all that traffic coming, from the plants and coming out from the, there at the
Subdivision.
apartments and all that, is if there's something that we can do to help make that a better turn-in, egress, degress.
Sure.
So when we
Sure.
get into that,
Yeah.
I just want to go ahead and put that out
you're talking
there.
about there at 25W, the approach and turn lanes, and yeah, that
Yeah.
shouldn't be a problem.
Yeah, because I've
got it.
had some people that live there say, that's all well and good, but
Yeah.
I wish we'd look at a different egress, degress from there, because the most dangerous part of Longmire is right there on top of the hill. As you get there, everybody that traveled that knows.
Yeah. And providing we can get ample right-of-way, we should be able to provide,
So
additional
what do
turn
we
lanes.
need to do to get that started? Just talk to you about it?
They
Put it
can
on-
talk to us, we can check on property owners and try to turn more right-of-way.
Okay.
We'd have to have more right-of-way going there, and utilities, things like that will have to be located and/or relocated.
Okay.
And I assume the entrance to the subdivision will be there near the top of the hill,
It
so you
is.
can have a sight distance.
Yeah,
And some people don't like the idea of them putting a subdivision in there, but we don't have a, per se, requirement that would forbid them from it. I mean, it's a county road and they got ample frontage and sight distance should be adequate.
Yeah, it met all the
Yeah.
codes of the
Yeah, I
planning
mean,
commission
all of the
and county, but
yeah.
we're just looking at the safety aspects
Sure.
of it.
Would they not have to be involved with 25?
Yes, they would interchange with the state right of way, and the city will be involved, because that's inside the city limits, at the end of 25W, and the other end, where it comes out on the Charles Cedars Boulevard, that's within the city limits also, if they do anything down there at the red light or from the, there at the railroad tracks, yes.
Okay. Anything else?
All right, no, thank you for your time, and we appreciate it, and thank you.
Thank you for coming.
Thank you all, yes, sir, thank you.
Next is adventure tourism.
Good evening. The reason that I come tonight is I kind of spoke about this a little bit at our last county commission meeting during the public hearing section of it. And what we're proposing, what our tourism council has passed, is to ask you all for the authorization to sell our building. We would have to go through the bid process and to go in with Anderson County Chamber and ACETA and build a new facility. So that's kind of the gist of it. But again, what we'll need to do is because the building is county property, we would have to auction it off, go through a bid process. Our first step would be to obtain a appraisal. The word just left me. I want to say estimate. To obtain an appraisal on the property, and then we would be able to set a minimum bid. And then again, we would look with the Anderson County Chamber to find property and to construct a new building. And the way that the new building would be constructed, it would allow for dual ownership. So we would own, Anderson County government through tourism would own one portion of the building, and then the chamber and ACETA would own the other portion of the building. And as I said at the county commission meeting, we're not talking about merging our organizations. Our organizations operate rather smoothly, I think, with our different boards, and we have different purposes. So we fulfill those purposes by the way that we are currently organized. So we wouldn't be talking about merging our organizations. We would just be talking about cohabitating, so to say. So, and again, we would own our own facility, and the money that we would obtain through auctioning a facility, our current facility, would go to pay for the new one. And we would be, the chamber would be we'd be building and buying the property, and we would be purchasing our section from them. So is that clear as mud? So because the current building is county property, we would need your authorization to auction it, to sell it.
Commissioner May?
Yeah, how much, I mean, is going into this new building, is it because it's gonna be more room, or is it better
Yes,
location?
yes. And as I said at the county commission meeting, our purpose has kind of changed over the years. I mean, our building has been there since 1998. And when I first started, we had AOL dial-up. You know, now everybody's walking around with basically a supercomputer in their hand. So we get fewer information requests from people that walk through the door. A lot of times people that do come through the door, they already know about the area, they're already here visiting, and they want to see what else they can do. So we're getting fewer people off of the interstate, so to say, that are requesting information, and we're getting a lot more requests for event space and for meeting space, where the chamber, and we're getting requests for small area where they can conduct business, where they can come and have Wi-Fi. We have a lot of people that are locating in the area working virtually, so they may be at the interstate, they may be located out on the lake where there's not really great internet service, so they want a place where they can come in and use the Wi-Fi, kind of rent space, and have those services available to them. We also, when we have events, like when we had the fishing tournament, we got a request to have a place for registration, and we didn't have anywhere. We had to go and rent a facility to hold the registration. So we are getting a lot of those requests. The chamber gets those requests. The chamber currently, and ACETA is currently located in the bank building. They don't really have a good presence in that facility. And so they have people that come in that want to locate their business here, that want to move here. And maybe we're not putting our best foot forward there. So we want to build a facility that would be, like I said at County Commission, other than the courthouse, your chamber, your tourism, your economic development is your face of your community. That's where people find out about your community first, whether they want to live there, move there, or locate a business there in this area. So we want to put our best foot forward and create a nice facility for all three of us.
Okay, I'm just guessing, I'm assuming this will be a new building.
Yes.
So it's gonna have all the upgrades for energy efficiency and all the stuff that we
Absolutely.
see. And so is the portion of your budget going for your building gonna be about the same, or is it gonna be significantly more? Or?
It should be about the same. I mean, our utility bills, because of some of the upgrades that we've made at the Welcome Center, they've stayed the same for the last 20 years. Honestly, I mean, our budget's been about $5,000 for utilities for the last 20 years. I can't imagine that would change a whole lot, because we're talking about kind of the similar footprint. And if anybody has been in a log cabin lately or tried to heat and cool a log cabin, they would understand, that it's not very efficient to heat and cool. So a brick structure would probably
Really good roof.
with a lot of more insulation. There's no insulation. I mean, if you were to have to get on a ladder and go to the top of our ceiling, usually in the summer it's about 90 degrees up there in my office. So it's not very insulated. So we would have, all that taken care of. So I can't imagine that our utilities would be that much more with a more energy efficient building.
Commissioner
And again,
Anderson.
we own our property now, through the tourism, through the county, and so that's one thing that, we talked about with the chamber and Aceta. I do not want to go back into debt for a building. I spent my first 10 years with the tourism paying our current facility off, so I would not even consider, going somewhere where we would be in debt. So we'll sell our building, we'll purchase our new section from the chamber. This will not put the county in any kind of debt situation.
Commissioner Anderson.
Well, that was kind of going to be my question, was without the appraisal, did you roughly think that you could buy a third of the building or whatever for what that was?
Exactly. And we won't know until we get the appraisal. And also, too, I've said, we can stop this process at any time. If you authorize me to get the appraisal, to put the building up for auction, if we do not get the minimum bid that we need, we don't move forward. I can come back and we can look at an alternative plan at that point, but we would set the minimum bid of what the building appraises for, and then that's what we would look at for the new building too.
What did we pay for the current building?
Oh, I'm not sure what we paid for the property. For some reason, I'm thinking $30,000 comes to mind. And then I know at one time the loan was $90,000, but I believe there was some other, that was what the loan was, is what we paid back to the county. So I'm not really sure exactly what the total for the property. I'd have to go back and look at the deed. So.
Commissioner McCamey.
Okay, you sound like you're ready to go.
Yes.
What about Aceta and the chamber?
Yes.
They don't have any land yet.
No, we would have to purchase property, and that would be, they're not ready to purchase property until you all say we can move forward. Because there's no reason for them to go and purchase property if you all don't approve us selling our property. So, but they have, I don't want to speak for Rick. He's out of town tonight, is the reason he's not here. He has authorization from his board to move forward with finding property. And again, they would purchase the property, they would build the building, and then we would buy our portion of the building from them.
Do you have some kind of a timeline, how long that's going to take?
Not necessarily, no. The only thing is, for example, we've identified 2 parcels of property and they've been sold out from under us. So it's, until we get authorization to say move forward and we know that we're going to be able to take these steps, then we can't really enter into a contract with anyone to purchase property. So.
Yeah, the question I had, and this is the property now is county property, okay? So when you're selling it, does it get sold as commercial property? Does the zoning on that have to be
Yes.
changed or something? Because I expect it's gonna be a commercial entity.
It is zoned commercial,
It is zoned commercial, okay.
even though the county owns it, yeah. The only difference is right now it's not on the tax rolls. When it's sold, it would go back on the tax rolls, yeah.
So if you get an appraisal now, that's gonna change next month.
Nothing?
It is.
What do you mean? I'm sorry.
It's gonna change next month. It's gonna be worth more next month than it is this month.
Oh, sure,
You know.
sure.
So if you get an appraisal now and you set that as your minimum, you could wind up, you know, one way or the
Yeah.
other, not getting enough or getting more than you had originally thought, so.
I mean, yeah, the hope would be to get more than what it appraises for.
And
That's the
bidding war.
trend right now, but on residential, I'm not sure about as far as commercial property goes, but.
Well, I don't know if we need to make a motion to go ahead and get an appraisal, or if we just need a motion to authorize you to go ahead with this plan and then get the appraisal at the last minute, you know, so that you have a true picture of what it's worth and how much you can afford to put into a building. But I like the idea of the three of you being together, because it, you know, you, basically all three are working for the county, so. And I don't know, would that motion? just
Well, I think,
authorize
yes,
you?
I mean, I think you would need to authorize us to go ahead and proceed with the process of getting an appraisal and then, setting up the auction. And I've already talked with the mayor and talked with Jay about what that process would look like as far as conducting the auction.
'Cause you can always take your appraisal and add 20% to it, for whatever the appraisal is. You can look back over the last few months and see what it's escalated, come up with a formula and add that to the appraisal for if they get it
Yeah.
next month.
I just don't want,
Leave money on the table.
yeah, and two, I don't want to go ahead and set an auction date and then, you know, you've not bought any land. yet.
Exactly. Well, it is, I
What are
mean,
you
it's
gonna do in the
gonna
meantime,
be
yeah?
something that's gonna have to kind of fall together, because we are gonna be homeless for a little while. So it will be something that we wanna move pretty quickly on. But until we identify, I think if we get the authorization from you all, that would enable us to identify the property, go ahead and get in a contract, let the chamber get into the contract on the property to purchase it, and then we would auction our building once that contract's in place.
Commissioner Wandale?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I guess, I got a lot of questions. I don't have a problem for going out for appraisal, not auction. I don't have a problem with that. I guess my concern is, who's gonna own the building? I understand tourism would have their section, and the CETA would have their section, the chamber have their section, but I wanna know who owns the building, who's gonna be responsible for maintenance, taxes, all the other stuff, you know, making sure the deeds are clear and all that kind of good stuff. I'd also wanna know where it would be located.
Okay.
You know, and I'd like to know, to me, we kind of seem to be putting the cart before the horse. You know, I'd be much more comfortable if you came in here and said, hey, look at the plans here for a proposed building, and this is what it would look like. And, you know, they would put skin in the game to get that engineering done. I understand you got to find a property to put it and all that, but I'll support you, Stephanie, on getting the appraisal, but, you know, I'm really concerned with how it's gonna go down the path from there and what that agreement's gonna look like, who's gonna develop that agreement. Is Jay gonna put his time in developing that agreement for those other entities?
Well, and let me address that specifically. So it would almost be like a condo effect. So we would build the building, there would be a firewall separating the tourism from chamber and a CETA. They would be located together in one section, and chamber and tourism would be located in another. So there would be a firewall, and I believe the terminology is zero lot line. And so we would own that section of the property. It would be in Anderson County's name, just like our building is right now. And the reason that we've set that up, we were gonna set it up that way, is because other organizations similar to ours in other counties are dealing with a situation where they're getting kicked out. Loudoun County right now, their chamber's looking at selling the building, the tourism is trying to figure out where to go. So that's happened in several other counties, so that's why I want to protect our investment. Y'all have invested money and time in the current facility, and I wanna be sure that we own it and wouldn't, and I mean, you know, 20 years from now, when I'm no longer here and Rick's no longer here, whoever's in that position is protected, that they will own their portion of their building. So it'll be, that section will be in Anderson County's name.
Just, how big is the lot that you're on now?
You're about a half an acre.
Half an acre?
So we're
Yeah.
looking at 2 acre parcels. Rick has met with an architect and looked at what kind of space dimensions that we're looking at, how much we would need, and what kind of parcel would be, you know, without having plans drawn. He has looked at what kind of space we need and what kind of parcel we would need.
I mean, I'm open.
Sure. And we are looking at the area between the interstate and here.
Okay.
That's kind of where we're targeting our area.
To me, my perception has been that the tourism has you're kind of known for the log cabin.
Sure.
And I'm not saying you got to stay in the log cabin.
Right.
But,
Yeah.
you know, it's kind of in a good spot and people know where it's at. Could it be bigger at this other location or more efficient, business operations wise? Sure, but, I'd almost want to not get rid of the property and look at another building too. I mean, it could be utilized in ways for the county, I think, but I'm open, I'll listen.
Yeah.
But
Well,
I just,
it comes down to funding. So if y'all would like to give me the funds to build another facility and keep our facility, I'd be happy to do that.
well, I don't know if there's enough space to build one, but, you know, I could envision the current one being like a gift center or whatever, to come in and give postcards and get information, and then you can have your facility offices in behind it, but I don't know if there's enough space there.
There's not. I mean, a lot of it has to do with stormwater too, as far as how close we can build to the road.
But-
Or
So
there's
to
no
get it-
property behind us.
I'd be interested in the appraisal, because
Yeah.
it's gonna be interesting to me to see how it appraises.
Mm-hmm.
Who does the appraisal and what it comes back at, because we're not talking about, on Edgemore Road, we're talking about, the new Merchants Road of the north, being up here, and there'd be a lot of interest in that little parcel, and it'd be worth more than probably what we'll see as an appraisal.
It will probably, from what I understand, what it's been selling for, because I sat on the Tourism Bureau, and Commissioner Meredith was going to do a presentation. Of course, he's out of town, and maybe if you approve something with the appraisal, just that, and then let him come back next month and do his thing. But it's about triple from what was.
I mean,
What we
if
paid
Commissioner
for.
McCamey doesn't have a motion on the floor, I'll make a motion to allow Stephanie to get an appraisal for the facility. I have no problem with that.
But the way I understand it from our board meeting that we had, Commissioner Meredith had a lot of different answers about, you know, what the chamber and the CETA wanted to see and the design of the building and all that stuff. So maybe if you get pass a motion here to get her started on the appraisal, and then we'll wait till next month to go forward. So you got a motion on that?
Yeah, I'll make that motion.
Okay, got a motion, second. Do you want to speak?
I just wanted to say that my real concern is the building cost of the new facility. I've been involved in construction projects with my family here just recently, and it is amazing how much more everything costs. And right now, with the cost of energy going up, shall I say dramatically, that makes the cost of everything uses energy to transport it and build it and make it. And so I'm concerned about what it's gonna cost to get a building that's as nice as what you have now, but even more energy efficient than what you have now. And then maybe take advantage of the good commercial location of the place you're selling. It might be worth more than what you think. But I think we're gonna have to take a close look at this new building and what it's gonna actually cost to build it, because expect it to cost 30% at least more than you think it's gonna. That would be.
Well, and again, I
would
mean,
tell you
time
my
is,
granddaughter.
yeah, I mean, time is of the essence. So, I mean, I'm happy to do the appraisal and start that process, but time is of the essence. And again, you can't look at actually purchasing a property until we have kind of a confirmation that we can move forward with this process. Because the chamber doesn't want to go and purchase property and then, the commission come back and say, no, we don't want to do that. We don't want to move forward. They'll be left holding the bag, so. So.
Is there any problem with modifying this to say that she goes ahead and gets this, and then she has our permission to bring, when she has a plan and stuff in place, to not have to wait an extra month to come back through us again if it's really ready, or is it gonna take more than a month to have a plan ready? Because I think what the commission's gonna need to see is, okay, here's a good idea of what we think this property can sell for, and here's a pretty good idea of what it's gonna cost for the new place. So we know that it's
Well,
not
and
gonna
we would,
cause
we would
huge
set that
costs.
limit on what we raise. The chamber is going to be doing a capital campaign to raise funds. They've already talked with the bank about borrowing funds. So we're gonna set that cap based on what our building sells for and what the chamber is comfortable raising. So, and that will dictate the size of the facility,
Yeah, okay.
so to say too, so.
Well, Commissioner Meredith will be here
Yeah.
at our commission meeting, and maybe he can answer some more of these questions from their point of view, you know.
Yeah, because this will be took up.
And he may even have a plan. I mean, you
Yeah.
said he had a rough drawing of something and said, you know, what's this gonna cost, so.
He was able to answer a lot of questions on the tourism board meeting.
Yeah.
And he also, at that time, he had some property located, but I understand it's gone now.
Yes, it's been
He
sold.
didn't keep it a secret too much, did he? No.
To what?
I said he didn't keep that secret too much, did he? Yeah.
Well, and that's just the nature of the game right now.
Oh, it's true.
I mean, it
It's
really is, like you were saying. I mean, that corridor from the interstate all the way down to here is very popular right now.
Very valuable.
So,
Well, all kinds of new development going on, housing, commercial.
And those houses are sold
Yeah.
before they're built.
they're already starting to get resold
Yeah.
too, so.
Does anyone know if Chick-fil-A would move into a log cabin?
I said that is gonna be the first rumor. That is gonna be the first rumor. As soon as it's approved, it's like, oh, Chick-fil-A's coming. I said, that'll be the first rumor, so. They can make it work, I'm sure. Yeah, Cracker Barrel's the next one.
No,
Yeah.
the Cracker Barrel stays where it's at.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They could build another one. They both do well.
Yeah.
So.
Any other questions? And the motion is for her to proceed forward with an appraisal.
Yes.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes unanimous.
Okay.
Okay, the next thing is we got a letter. This actually came from John Reagan's office. I don't know if everybody's had an opportunity to look at it. And last month and the month before, this committee and full commission approved a resolution to go forward supporting ATV riding in Oliver Springs. The Tourism Bureau has been working with the city of Oliver Springs, and they've made a proposal, and it's Senate Bill is 2083, the House Bill is 2041. And so I got a letter from John Reagan's office, and I'll just read it real quick for the people at home. Dear Chairman Massey, Chairman Howe, and Vice Chairman Pody, Powers and Hall, and these are all on the Transportation Safety Committee. The Recreational Off-Highway Vehicle Association, here known as ROHVA, is a national not-for-profit trade association formed to promote the safe and responsible use of recreational off-highway vehicles. ROVs sometimes refer to side-by-sides or UTVs manufactured or distributed in North America. ROHVA is also accredited by the American National Standards to serve as Standards Development Organization. House Bill 2041, Senate Bill 2083 authorizes off-highway vehicles. This includes ROVs by definition to operate on certain segments of state highways located in Essex County. ROHVA opposes the legislation, and these road segments are not limited to trail connectors as part of a designated trail system. And it goes on about why they're designed, manufactured, and sold for off-highway use only. But all the ATVs, UTVs that we see up in Rocky Top, they're licensed. They're very expensive vehicles. They got brake lights, they got windshields, they got four wheels. And it's just been a boom for that area. But this application of any on-road requirements to ROVs will falsely signal to consumers that on-road use of ROVs is somehow safe. I don't know of any accidents that we've had in the city of Rocky Top whatsoever. ROHVA is opposed to on-road use of ROVs regardless of equipment requirements. Riding on public roads introduces the possibility of ROV colliding with a car or truck. There's motorcycles on the road there now. An obviously dangerous situation which would be compounded by faster moving automobiles come upon slower moving ROVs. Automobiles and other on-highway vehicles are manufactured and certified to meet federal vehicle safety requirements, which consist of detailed compliance requirements based on extensive safety testing specific to on-road use. In contrast, ROVs are not intended to be used on highway, are not designed, equipped, or tested to meet FMVSS, permitting street use ROVs, including modified vehicles. Runs contrary to manufacturers' intended proper use and contrary to federal safety requirements. ROHV urges that on-highway use of ROVs be permitted and that law enforcement efforts be strengthened to eliminate this dangerous practice. And that was a letter that was sent to this committee. So they're sending it back for us to look at, and I think that Stephanie can go ahead and talk about some of her ideas on this, because she's worked with the city of Oliver Springs.
Yeah, before Christmas, the city of Oliver Springs asked me to come down and talk to you about kind of the same thing that Rocky Top does, which is allowing ATVs on the road. They've had several requests from citizens, business owners, and other interested visitors in that area. So we sat down and looked at what would be the best possible route to allow off-road vehicles on the state highway. And right now, currently, they are allowed on Windrock Road to the Windrock Campground entrance up to what they call the trailhead, which is the big parking lot. So what we've proposed is to bring them on down Windrock Road to 62, Highway 62. You would come out of Windrock Road and turn to your right, go to the traffic light where 62 goes up through to Wartburg, and then you would turn left into Oliver Springs, and that's Winter Gap Road. And then the road that runs in front of City Hall, which is Highway 61, you would be able to ride that section, and then it connects to 330, and then we kind of go on up a little bit on 330 to where there's some access to to other cabins that are on the short-term rental program. So that is all state highway. So there's two ways that you can allow ATVs on the road. One is to get to look, and I think you had the TCA code, Tim, where it basically doesn't allow ATVs on the road, and there's exceptions, and there's a whole list of exceptions. They're in Campbell County, they're in Anderson County, they're in Scott County, they're in some other counties that I don't know the names right now, but it's all across the state that they're allowing exceptions for same thing, to allow ATVs, just like we did in Rocky Top, to allow for ATVs to be on the road. This is just an additional exception. The other way that you would allow ATVs on the road is if the road is a county road or a city road, and it is under an adventure tourism district. So several years ago, I think 2016, you all approved for ATVs to be on county city roads that were under your jurisdiction, under the Adventure Tourism Act. So, because we designated an adventure tourism district that included Windrock and parts of Rocky Top. So that's how you all as a legislative body are able to designate county roads to be ridden on by off-road vehicles. So
and that's what we just reapproved in our last
the Adventure
operations
Tourism
committee
District,
in
yes.
full commission.
So the reason does not involve the city or the county at this point, because it is a state road. So we're just asking for an exception. It's a state highway. We're asking for an exception to the current TCA code. And again, I just emailed back and forth with TDOT this morning and their safety department about maybe an alternative route. Instead of coming out at that traffic light. One of the reasons we chose that area is because there is a good sight line. There is already a traffic light right there for people to turn into the city, kind of the Main Street area. So that's kind of why we designated that area, and because already part of Windrock Road is designated to be allowed to have ATVs on.
Okay.
Or off-road vehicles.
Any questions?
Well, I just wanna say that, you know, you can have little motor scooters, little motorbikes, and little electric little bikes, and all kinds of stuff you can be on the roads. And to not allow somebody in one of these off-road vehicles that's actually pretty sound.
Well, I can tell you
I
how
was,
beneficial.
I was on Cumberland last night for the ball game and saw the little scooters going up and down the road, and I was like,
Yeah,
those
and that's
things
legal.
move pretty fast.
Yeah.
So going up and down Cumberland Avenue, so.
But where
yeah.
the state approves the ride on 116 is actually, for the first time in years, allowed for jobs to be in the New River
Oh, yeah,
area.
yeah.
And I think, is Commissioner Val still back there? And we talked about this, and he talked about the safety aspects. As far as he knows, we hadn't had any any accidents at all to report.
No, but we sure have a lot of tractor trailers on 116 that we get complaints from people in the ditch.
That's true.
I've had that conversation with Representative Reagan and the former captain of the Highway Patrol Division out of Knoxville. I very seldom hear any complaints on side-by-sides or four-wheelers traveling 116. The business owners in that area, there's a couple of stores in our district that appreciate the business. I still get complaints from time to time about 18-wheelers, tractor trailers, traveling that route, and I myself was put in the ditch by one not too long ago. And when I notified the Highway Patrol about that, very, very helpful Captain Melhorn, I believe he finally retired. He explained to me, Shane, believe it or not, it is strictly legal for tractor trailers to travel Highway 116. It was shocking for me to believe that, but now the coal trucks, when they used to run, and the logging trucks, certainly I understand. And I believe, Jake can correct me, I believe they're allowed to travel pretty much regardless under TCA. But tractor trailers from stores, from businesses like that, in my opinion, that's more of a threat that we have facing that road than the side-by-sides and the four-wheelers. I'd much rather them see focus their attention on that as far as safe travels go. Looking at it from another perspective, as the chairman said, the four-wheeling industry has boosted the economy on the north end of the county in a tremendous fashion. When I was on city council, when we first passed it, I believe in 2016.
I'll correct you on that.
Okay,
I'm sorry, but
that's right.
this county was the first county in the state
Yes.
to do it.
Mhm.
Tim remembers it, and it was shortly after '06 or '07 we
Oh,
got
okay.
Rocky Top started. I remember Tim and I going up there and looking at property for a campground.
Okay.
Since we did it, so many other
Right.
jurisdictions have followed us. And I think, Stephanie, the perfect analogy is how safe it's been, because here you got 25W, you got 116, all coming together, and we're not having any problems, and we've got a huge economic stimulus. It'd be the same thing in Oliver Springs, is what it would be, and we've proven that.
And Campbell County followed suit. You can ride
Look,
Careful.
Yeah.
Read that statute she's talking about.
Yeah.
There's several different.
8 pages.
They just followed, copied what we did, and, I think it's been super beneficial. I'm glad that there's new campgrounds coming in up there. It's making a big difference in Rocky Top.
Oh, yeah.
It's carrying on in the New River.
Yeah.
Just visited Scotty's not too long ago, and they're tickled to death about the hopeful development of some of the areas over there.
They
I mean,
converted Rosedale School
Yeah.
into
Yeah,
short-term
Rosedale
rental.
schools, yeah,
Yeah.
short-term rental
Yeah.
looks
So
great.
certainly I oppose this. I hope the entire commission does. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Yeah, this particular area happens to be in my district,
Mhm.
and I'm definitely opposed to it, and I'm also opposed to, I mean, there's no reason why that if they're successful in this, that they're not gonna come to Lake City
Exactly.
and take in 116 and 25W. It's a state road also. So it's already allowed on state roads under one bill, and then they're wanting to kill this bill now that allows it for another city, and I just don't think that's right, that Oliver Springs would be shut out, you know, and like somebody else said, it's no different than a motorcycle. You know, most of these have four wheels, motorcycle only has two.
Yeah.
And we see more motorcycle wrecks than we do ATV wrecks, so. I reckon
And there are other safety precautions in it where you're not allowed, basically you're 30 minutes after daybreak, 30 minutes before, sunset. You do have to wear a helmet, all those same things that apply to a motorcycle would apply to an ATV. And you have to think that most of them are UTVs. So they're, basically a convertible car. Yeah. And again, that's one of the reasons we did decide on that area is because there's a traffic light there that would help and kind of already slow down traffic.
What do we need to do as a body? Recommend to our legislators or?
Maybe a letter from our law director, because he knows, he's been on this since day one with all the aspects, the safety aspects, and just that this committee and maybe full commission, still approves and supports the idea of the safe use of ATV, UTVs on the road. That would be my thinking.
You want it,
Could
for
you-
next Tuesday night?
Well, that'd be up to maker of
Yeah,
motion,
I
yeah.
would think so.
Yeah, because I think they asked for a week delay to bring us back alternative routes. So we're looking at next week that the committee would be considering that. So a letter to the committee?
To the safety committee and to our legislators, copy them to our state legislators.
Which would
And I think
be,
is Jaeger, we've talked with Randy McNally's office, but
Jaeger's
is
the one
Jaeger
that's
the ones
carrying
carried in the Senate?
bill.
And then Reagan's in the House.
Reagan's carried in the House, but I'll also copy John Mark Wendell because,
It's gonna be his new district.
yeah, because he's going to go east on, let's see, would that be east or west? He's got going towards Morgan County is John Mark Wendell on 116. Coming back on this side is John Reagan. So. And so that's your motion?
Yeah.
Okay. We have a second?
Yeah.
Second
He
by,
raised his hand first.
No, I was just gonna restate the motion.
oh, go ahead.
No,
I'll-
what's the motion?
To have the law director draft a letter in opposition to this not-for-profits objection and to the Senate. What is
So write a letter in support of the Senate and
Yeah.
House bill?
Yeah.
Yeah. To the,
Senate Bill 2083,
it's the,
House Bill 2041.
it's the Senate Safety Committee, Highway Transportation and Safety Committee. Just in support of the bill, because like I said, if this group is successful, there's no reason why they wouldn't come back and say, hey, let's do the same thing down in Lake City.
So they're,
Rocky Top, excuse me.
so what they're doing is they're obviously opposing that House Bill 2041 and Senate Bill 2083.
Yes,
And we're saying we wanna keep it,
right.
correct?
And, I think Jay could add in there about, we've had a track record here of X number of years, no accidents, and that, we have it in other parts of the county that are on state roads, and there's no reason why we shouldn't be able to do it there. And as far as an alternate route, I don't know of any.
I don't know of one either, honestly, so, yeah. But they're gonna bring back a proposal to me, so I'll share that with you all.
Now, in
And
our,
with the Senate.
our area, Rocky Top, I know it's all of our area, but they're required to get a license, correct, or permit?
No,
No.
Oh, really?
no, they're not.
That only
You're
lasts
required to
for-
have a license, you're required to be 16, and you're required to be a licensed driver.
I thought we were selling permits.
They were, but the city discontinued that. So you are required to have a license, to be 16, to wear a helmet, to follow all the rules, and to have insurance,
Yes.
all the appropriate insurance.
So in other states like Pennsylvania and New York, when I go hunting, you're required to get that license from the state. So I think what you'll see at some point, it'll go probably to TWRA and they'll get involved and all that stuff. But I'm gonna support this. I'm in favor of.
You do have to have a permit when you ride on TWRA property, so, currently, so.
And see, what we actually got passed over on 116 for Gingers and
Right.
for, over next to where Scotty's is at, they're actually entering the trail on TWRA property, and then it'll cross over to Windrock.
I see.
But you look at Hatfield McCoy, what they do in that area. I mean, they're riding a lot of their riding is
Well,
on
that
roads.
was really, Hatfield McCoy was the pattern behind this, because there's an old coal mining town that was just devastated and didn't have, was just down and out. And now they're one of the most productive communities they are, just because of, allowing ATVs on the road. And then like Rocky Top, as we talked before, is you're, 2 miles to one direction, you're on the lake, 2 miles to the next, it's all adventure tourism. So,
Yeah, I came through there yesterday, and there's one coming out of Food City there in Oliver Springs.
yeah.
Some of them are, you can already get them approved to be on the road, to be a legal vehicle with the license plate and, all those, all that. But,
And I think that's what we see most in our district. Yeah. Okay.
okay, thank you.
Any other discussion?
Okay, these people are driving these vehicles. I think all of us have been out on four-wheelers in the country sometime. And it's hard for me to believe that a vehicle that you can cross streams and you can go up hillsides and go down through all the trees and brush and all that kind of stuff is suddenly unsafe if you're on a paved road.
I agree.
To me, this bunch is just trying to grab power so they can stay powerful in the future. And we need to get this thing passed.
Any other discussion?
Overrule their objections.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes unanimous. Thank you. Airbnb and VRBO, request by Chairman Anderson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and what prompted this topic, Stephanie, I hope you'll stick around, we might need you to chime in. I talked to some residents around the Shore Loop, Sequoia Road area in Andersonville, and they weren't necessarily complaining about the owner, but there's an Airbnb in their neighborhood they advertise part of the amenities for their Airbnbs, the access that neighborhood has to the lake, and there's some common areas and stuff that are technically for the whole community. And I guess that issue is more of probably a TWRA issue, with the covenants stating that they're not actually you're not supposed to make money off that. It's just for that neighborhood. But anyway, they said that they weren't really necessarily hadn't had any issues with them yet, but they were just more generally curious with how does the county regulate those? What are we doing? And so I said, well, the state's kind of stepped in and doesn't let us. So what? I know we still get the lump sum of the hotel motel tax, and we can't really itemize that yet. But and Stephanie, you might know, but is the clerk's office or anyone able to kind of just go online and investigate? And I know these are all, they must be advertising online. So can we at least verify that they're?
We can verify the business license.
The business are we doing that? Is that?
Yes.
So we are doing that.
Yes,
Okay.
Stephanie's doing a great job locating these, giving them to Jeff, and Harold, I think the Planning Commission is going over, you might want to speak on this, is going over some new regulations as they go through the whole zoning resolution. And I know they've contacted me several times about some stuff they're going to put in the new zoning resolution, but Stephanie does a great job of locating these. And
well, and right now, January 1, 2021, the state put in.
They're doing it for us.
Yes.
Okay.
So the third party, the VRBO.com, Airbnb.com, they are now collecting those fees, sales tax, hotel motel tax, and they are remitting it to the state. And then the state is passing that on to the counties and the cities, however it's applicable. So we have seen an increase in revenue because of that, because as we knew before, the short-term rentals were not collecting those fees and then submitting them to the county or the city or wherever whatever their jurisdiction was. So now that is out of the homeowner's hands. You can go, there's a website called AirDNA, and you can go on there and see all of the listings that are on Airbnb and VRBO, current active listings. So you can see, but we have no way right now through the state system to find out who they are and how much they contributed each month or anything like that.
We can't audit.
No.
So we can't, yeah, so I didn't know, is there a way to, if we can identify them all, there's no way to reverse engineer or request it from the county level to look at the records or?
We can
things?
figure out most of them where they're
Yeah.
at. But
Mhm.
as far as the income, that's a little different until the state starts to share that with us. But I believe the state hired a contractor to identify, I believe it's the same contractor,
With the
Metro
business license?
Nashville uses. And they identify looking at all the different, ads everywhere and all the websites and, are sending it over to the Department of Revenue. So it's a lot better than it was a year or two ago. And,
Absolutely.
we're hoping it gets better, but, we're starting to see a little extra revenue there.
Okay.
And I know that the city of Norris is in the process of passing an ordinance. I know that Oliver Springs has talked about it. Clinton, I don't think has done anything yet, and I don't think Oak Ridge has either. And I don't think Rocky Top has, or plans to at this point. But like you said, the state did grandfather a lot of those in already and kind of limits what the county can do. And I know like in Howard's situation, you do have, if you have coding in place, if you have an HOA, if you have those things already in place, that is not dictated by the state. Those still remain in place. So if your HOA says no short-term rentals, there's no short-term rentals. If there's some kind of agreement in that area, that public use area or that common use area that says just to the homeowner only, then those still stay in place. That should not matter that that they're doing it as a short-term rental.
Okay. Now, are the cities able, do they have a little more teeth than the counties for their ordinances? Or I know Norris, it seemed like there was a lot of.
Cities always have more, broad powers, but the problem here is you run up against that set of state statutes. And, that's where everybody gets hung up. So we're kind of limited. But the homeowners associations do have the power to bring a private action to get rid of them, but it's expensive for them, and that's a real problem right there. And some of their, looking at several of them, some of their covenants and restrictions don't catch this specifically. And so we're having to use, if they have no commercial activities or stuff like that, saying that's against your covenants and restrictions, but they look for us for enforcement efforts, when really they're in a much better position than the county is to enforce this. But we need to be ready, and I'm glad the Planning Commission is undertaking this huge job to try to look at it in our zoning resolution and try to get ours right, because it's coming more and more. And I'd say every month we get a few more in this county.
Well,
And
this-
you have the same concerns, that we're hearing from every city. You've got parking, you've taken a 3-bedroom house, and now you're trying to put, it's normally for a family of, 4, and now you're trying to put 16 people in that house. And I know, especially with Norris, there's a lot of shared driveways, so that's a big issue. Having ingress, egress, all of that's a big issue, providing those safety standards. So those are some of the things that the city of Norris worked into their ordinance to try to provide some of those safety issues and just, making sure that they're not being intrusive on their neighbors, those kind of things, so. And I think that should be something that's looked at countywide.
Oh, they're renting them for bachelor's parties and
Yeah.
weekend getaways, and a lot of these people care less about a quiet neighborhood. And that's, Harold will tell you about Henderson Bend, and a beautiful neighborhood, relatively quiet, and now they've got one place in there that the guy's basically renting it out for parties. And it's really a problem down there, but it's moving forward in the right direction, there's no doubt, with the state jumping into it and also our planning commission looking at our zoning resolution. Maybe we can stop some of this problem.
Thank you. That's all I had.
Let me speak on that. Believe it or not, I was first.
Go ahead, state your name, Harold.
Harold Edwards, 156 Henderson Bend Road, Knoxville, Tennessee, although I'm an Anderson County resident. I was first exposed to this 40 years ago, believe it or not. Worked for the Tennessee State Planning Office, and the city of Gatlinburg had an issue with short-term rentals coming into established neighborhoods, residential. What they did is created everything was zoned R1, low density residential, single family residential. They created an R1A zone that prohibited overnight rentals, short-term rentals. So they control that through zoning from that point forward. I have had a short-term rental as a non-owner occupied. I had a house in Gatlinburg for 10 years, had it on home away, VRBO, fine. I didn't really have to worry about it, but it was a small house. It was 2 bedrooms. We restricted it to no more than 4 people. We also have had a Airbnb in the past in the lower level of our current home. Again, it was restricted to no more than 4 individuals at a time. We had a limit on the amount of time that they could stay there. And that was a totally different deal. In my neighborhood, nobody had a problem with it. All vehicles were parked off street. Matter of fact, I am for short-term rentals as far as an economic stimulus. They provide a good service to the people coming into our area. For example, the Oak Ridge Rowing, we always had guests stay with us for the rowing. A lot of people had to go to Knoxville because there's no accommodation standards in county. We need to provide that service for those. Fishermen, we had fishermen that came in. Everybody was pretty much above board. We had no problems at all. Down the street, we've got a property owner that converted a 4-bedroom house to accommodate 16 or more people. And this past summer, they had 3 bachelorette parties. We've had a lot of issues. The Planning Commission is looking at a difference to distinguish between owner-occupied short-term rentals and non-owner-occupied short-term rentals. Believe me, there is a difference. If you've got a house and you're there and you've got guests coming in, everything's going to be fine. If it's not, you're going to kick them out, aren't you?
Yeah.
But if you've got a house that accommodates a large number of people, and believe me, size matters. They say size matters. I guess it does in this case too. If you've got a house and as long as they've got a credit card, you rent it out to them. There's no screening. I mean, we could have sexual predators, pedophiles, who knows, coming into your neighborhood. What we've got to do in the short-term rental legislation is to protect our current neighborhoods, the integrity, the citizens. There are some areas, I'm sure, cluster areas, that accommodate short-term rentals, non-owner occupied, and we need to create a zone to permit those. So we're looking at distinguishing between those in our zoning resolution modifications. I personally think that a short-term rental, owner-occupied, could also be considered as a customary home occupation with certain criteria, mainly off-street parking and a few things like that. Now, in Sevier County, I will say this, Anderson County's probably missing out on some revenue because when I had a short-term rental, I paid personal property tax on the contents of the rental unit. I had an annual renewable fee for a tourist residency permit. They had fire inspection every year. Had to come in and check for CO2 and fire or smoke detectors. And believe me, that's important. So I think if we're going to actually regulate short-term rentals, we need to have a mechanism in place to ensure the safety of those residents or guests that are coming in, to give them an assurance that this is a safe place for them to occupy. One thought that we may consider is our volunteer fire departments, if we had a listing of the short-term rentals, perhaps they could collect the fee for the fire inspection annually. May not be a lot of money, but it may help them out a little bit. But it's important to have smoke detectors and CO2 detectors and make sure that the structure is sound. So that's basically all I have to say, but we are working on That and some other modifications to improve the zoning resolution. So, you have any questions?
Thank you.
Thank you, Harold.
Any other discussion on Airbnb and VRBO? All right, we'll move on to mayor.
Grandbaby was FaceTime, and I should have shut that down. Happy Valentine's Day.
Happy Valentine's Day.
The first item on, I'm requesting action on is a motion to extend emergency sick leave again. This time March 1st through June 30th for active and regular part-time employees receiving a positive COVID-19 test, and then also to update the required documentation form.
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Okay.
Got a motion and a second, any discussion?
Question.
Commissioner Wandell?
Is this something we already passed once?
We have, so all along, as part of our COVID-19 response plan, we have accommodated for emergency sick leave. And that has changed over the time with federal guidance, with Tennessee Department of Health guidance, and we have extended it we keep anticipating it's gone, it's going away, we can phase this emergency sick leave out, but with this particular variant, we've seen more cases than, ever before. You probably have seen that community-wide. So we've just been coming regularly in steps extending that leave.
Kind of, has it had a financial impact on us? I'm for it, or is it, how's that work? Do we just take their normal pay and give it to them, or what's?
So Kim is here to answer any questions. So originally, when it was first awarded, in line with federal guidance, we had added an additional 80 hours. And then when that changed, I believe that changed, Kim, correct me if I'm wrong, was that January 1? September. Oh, September, that's right. That number went down. So we haven't, we originally did the 80 hours. We haven't awarded additional. It's just that the number of hours is limited. Also, initially, you did have some exposure coverage. So, for instance, if you were exposed, you could take advantage. As that has changed and whittled down, now it's just a positive diagnosis for the individual themselves. And then the time is based on your quarantine guidance from Department of Health. But Kim is better equipped to answer these questions. I'll step aside.
Thanks, Mary. Good evening.
So, the FFCRA, when it was originally put in place, it also allowed for like school closings, and it was very expansive. That ended on September 30th. The board approved to continue with the original 80 hours that was given. So what we have seen with the new variant, though, is that we have got employees that are now testing positive 3 times from COVID. It just continuously comes back with the new variant. They can't seem to get rid of it. And so what this does, it removes, because on the other one, it had the original FFCRA, and what we had continued with had a maximum amount. That 80 hours, it was reduced to 50 to try to match the Tennessee Department of Health CDC guidelines. Since December has changed 4 or 5 times. So it's a continual change. It's a continual effort to keep up with it. The wording in the document now allows us to go along with what that is, but it puts a minimum. It replaces the maximum language with the minimum. And that then again is also based upon, it's a 5 days right now. If you've read it, it's currently 5 days home if you test positive. If that 5 days, you have to be on schedule. So, if you're off Saturday and Sunday and you test positive on Thursday, you're only going to get 3 days. So it meets those requirements without hopefully us having to come back time and time again to change it based upon what their changes are. So that's kind of where that lies.
So I guess what I was wondering is the funds, this is the normal budgeted payroll.
Correct.
All we're doing is continuing pay if they
Yes.
happen to be sick under these certain criteria.
Correct. So the federal guidelines required us to do that. They ended in September. The total amount of hours that had been paid, I sent out an email earlier today. The estimated hours since the beginning of the paid ESL, which is emergency sick leave.
2020, correct?
Yes, sir.
When it started?
Yeah, was 14,000 hours is what we had missed, but a lot of that, we're seeing less of those hours until this month. This month, we had 37 positives.
But we haven't paid above and beyond any salaries.
No.
We're only allocating funds that they would have been paid anyway to be at work.
Correct.
That's all I want to
Correct.
try to,
Yes.
because I think it can be interpreted by those at home watching that we're giving free money away to people
No.
that get COVID.
No,
and-
it's just to replace those hours that are missed because they are
Yes,
positive
yes,
with
yes.
COVID.
That's
It
all we've
can't
been
work.
doing.
That's all
Just
we've been doing from the
and trying to
get-go.
make sure they stay somewhat whole if they happen, unfortunately, to get COVID. Is what
Correct.
we've been doing, right?
Yes, and through September of last year, we also got a cut on the taxes as part of the FFCRA. It allowed us to get a bit of a tax break on those dollars. That has been gone since September. But yeah, we're only replacing what they miss.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Kim, before you leave, when I went to the doctor and got my test and all that, I didn't have any symptoms whatsoever. But they gave me a test anyway, and it came back positive. And I said, how could that be? There's no symptoms. I said, if I did, it was probably during Christmas. She said, you could test positive for 6 months
Correct.
for this new variant. So if they're out, a week, and then they go back and get another test and test positive again and test positive again, although you test positive, you're not spreading it.
That is correct.
Yeah.
And also, that's part of what that guideline is with the Tennessee Department of Health, is that they say 90 days, at least 90 days out, and depending on the test. There's lots of variables. I mean, our guidelines went from 1-pagers to now it's a 4-page document that we have to follow. It's based on various items, whether you've been vaccinated, whether it's an in-house, whether it's an exposure or a close contact. There's all kinds of factors that we have to apply to that. But what the guideline says is if it's a rapid test for 3 months, you can test positive. So if it's a rapid, quick result test, there's other tests that you can have done that will go out 6 months. Again, it depends on the test. But yes, that's true.
In the new test, and I didn't show any signs whatsoever, except when, Christmas Day, I had a little fatigue, so I figured that if anything. But I've been vaccinated and boosted both.
Yes.
But the new test they give's not anywhere near, they don't go back and touch the brain now. They actually have you blow your nose and just get that, so.
Yes, that is
So
true too.
anybody that's ever been afraid of that, it's a lot easier now. Thank you. No, that's what we're waiting on. We got a motion and a second. Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes unanimous.
The next item on the agenda is requesting a motion to approve authorization of the installation of a historic courthouse sign at the front of the courthouse on the courthouse lawn. The Historic Downtown Clinton organization is spearheading this. They have, Phase 1 has 11 spots, with the courthouse square being one. Since that time, they are tweaking the language on the sign, so they're working with Zach in archives, and then also Zach and Joey Smith are with the Historic Downtown organization are going to check in with Miss Harris as well on the signage. So I don't know if we want to just withdraw this tonight and come back once they have that language final, or if you want to approve it and make it contingent upon Ms. Harris and Zach coming, making sure that the language is correct. So, I mean, however you want to do it is fine with me.
What would you recommend?
The will of commission? The will of commission. I mean, I'm fine with even just circulating it if you want to just make it contingent upon.
I make a motion to authorize the installation of the historic courthouse signs being contingent on the finalization of the wording of the signs.
I'll second the motion.
Okay, we got a motion and a second. Any other discussion? All in favor? Any opposed? Motion passes
Okay.
unanimous.
Did you all like that location, I'm assuming? We kind of walked around with them, and it would be right there in that front lawn. Okay. And then the last is a request motion to accept the City of Clinton offer to acquire real property from Anderson County and authorizing the mayor to execute the associated paperwork. In the packet is a description of the property. Jay has also reviewed, and I have his cover letter as well. We do also have assurance through language from TDOT, which I have here, or the engineer. The area is 23.48 square feet, or 0.0005 acres. And then they have a construction easement. And then we have assurance from the contractor language, section 107.14, of their responsibility for work and any damage. So we have assurance that they, under contractor, to rebuild, repair, restore, make good all injuries or damages to the work occasioned by any of the above causes. So this is the City of Clinton doing, they have a TAP grant to do sidewalk improvements, and that this is part of that process.
Can you tell us where it's at, just for the people that?
Yes,
that might be
it's
watching?
just at the very corner of the Jolly Building, so it's on our plaza there, and basically they're just going to be kind of rounding out the sidewalk there, so they need just that small area to make it smoother and better.
So moved.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes unanimous.
And that's all I have. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, I'm going to be quick tonight. Resolution authorizing Comcast to apply for federal funds. Need to pull that. We've not been satisfied with some of the questions that we've asked about this. They need to better relay all the information to us, and we've asked, Commissioner Wandell's asked the gentleman, the Comcast rep, to come to operations or county commission. He's not accepted that yet, so we're going to pull that until we can get some answers on this, exactly what we're committing to, where these funds are, federal funds are, and if that's going to impact our Build Back Better or ARP money. So that's where we're at on that. The second issue,
Jay,
yes.
I'm sorry.
Yeah,
Mr. Chairman,
I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
I want to thank Jay for doing the work on this, and everything he said is true. What we're finding, Mr. Chairman, is we have a lot of rural residents who are in need of internet service, and when they inquire about it, typically with Comcast, the costs are just unbelievable, and the residents and the citizens can't afford this. So, this request, I guess one of the things that I've heard over and over, I'm sure many of you have, is there's all these funds out there to connect rural America. So the question back was, and Jay was kind enough to get involved, and he always has been involved in this anyway, but what we're asking is, why can't Comcast go get those federal dollars from the ARP funds that are out there for infrastructure for internet? Because they have the right to get those funds with our help, it sounds like. But what we want, or what I'm asking for the people in our county and our district especially, is tell us what that's gonna look like for our people. So when, you know, I don't wanna go out and get the funds and then they still are charged, you know, $2,000, $6,000 to connect when the line's just a few hundred feet away or something. So, you know, I look forward, I don't know what we need to do here, but do we have the cable committee still, or is that a thing?
No. Mm-mm. Now, we've got ACTV, but it doesn't have jurisdiction.
Well,
My
I
major
think what he
concern,
was talking about is that broadband committee.
Okay.
Is that what you're talking
Well,
about?
yeah, that would be perfect.
And actually, I've been in contact with Highland Communications, and this thing is really convoluted,
Mhm.
because they've came in and they're looking at your area, and they're looking at the Briceville, yep, Frost Bottom and all that. But if they have, like any communication, if they apply for these grants or that money, and they identify this area, but if Comcast is already there, they get kicked out of all of it.
that's been standard for years. This is one of the issues that myself and Commissioner Wandell have thought about, and we're concerned that they're gonna take our federal funding, okay, and make money off our dollars and extend their lines. And we want to know my question to them when I sent them the last email, and they've not responded, is what's it going to do for our citizens? How are they going to be better? Are they just applying for the same funds that's earmarked for Anderson County for them to build a better network and then charge everybody on top of that? So we're going to get some more questions, and information is vital on this issue. And when they present that to us, then I'll draft the resolution. You guys can consider it at that point.
This is a good discussion. Mr. Chairman, would it make sense for us to have a meeting of the cable committee, or, I'm sorry, you called it? Broadband, I apologize. And I noticed the mayor out there, she had some reaction.
She was actually the one that led that committee up.
Well, I'd like to have a workshop, I mean, because I'd like to hear from the other commissioners on the challenges you're having for your constituents. I'd like to share the ones I'm having, and let's develop a strategy so when these other cable companies come in, we have a better plan, and Jake certainly and the mayor can help us build something to where we can make a good decision on going forward.
Sounds great.
Josh, you have Highland's number?
Yeah, I think I've got one of the, I can't remember the.
Steve,
They were in,
Steve
they were in the
yeah.
county last week looking at some areas, and they are a not-for-profit, cable company. And I'd like to see them come to the committee also and
So
show
we're,
us what they've got. They did some mapping already of the county.
so we would be allowed to work with them as well, is that right? I mean, our franchise agreement doesn't prohibit us from working with other, I mean, because, I mean, how's all this work? I mean, I get my bill, everybody does. We got the franchise fee of $7, $8, everybody, you know, times 50,000 people, and it's a lot of damn money, and, you know, but when we want to get cable extended, they want to charge our people, which, you know, I just don't understand it. So I'd like to have a meeting. I'd like to sit down, have a workshop. I want to get a strategy together to where we can.
It's a great idea.
Maybe we can get purchasing involved.
We'll
or we can
invite
get a
all the
bid or
players
something.
that are involved, and it may be a work session before county commission or this body.
Could we have something in the county jail? I know this sounds crazy, but, you know, look, they charge us. I was just wondering, can we charge them? Can we charge them a fee to operate in our county?
We charge them a fee. That's that franchise fee.
Yeah, but we don't get
Remember,
all
they
the
were
fee.
behind at one time. They were behind in the franchise fee a couple of years ago.
Yeah, but we don't get all that fee. We get a
Yeah.
portion of it.
Well, there's franchise fees that are by contract, and that's the way we were with Comcast, and there's franchise fees by statute, but
Okay.
that franchise fee should be coming to Anderson County government. I'll check that with Robbie, but we normally see that in the revenue code.
Mr. Chairman, can we make a motion to meet sometime at this other committee, broadband
Sure.
committee?
Yeah, that'd be up to the mayor to set it up.
Do you want me to check with some of the players and see what their availability is, and I'll check with the mayor on some dates?
That'd be
and
great. Yeah,
Is
I'd love
it
to.
better for you guys to have it before the county commission meeting, or would you like to have it at operations, or how do you want to do that, or standalone public hearing, or standalone information?
I'm happy to have it here, or whatever the fellow's saying.
Fine.
Mayor, thanks.
It doesn't really matter as long as they meet.
Yeah.
I'll talk to the mayor about it tomorrow, and we'll try to look at some dates, and we'll get some contacts. I'd like to see everybody that's interested be here, especially these cable companies.
Thanks.
Well, I think you'll get a lot of people from the public that wants to be here too.
Yeah.
That's one of our #1 complaints. It has been for years.
Commissioner Meade?
I was just gonna mention, I was at a meeting last Friday where the County Commission Association was looking at legislation. There are 3 bills that specifically address expanding broadband. And all 3 of them are designed to make it easier and less expensive to expand broadband in areas that don't have it. So I just have a short sentence on each one, so I haven't looked at the legislation in detail, nor am I that familiar with the specific regulations that are in place. But I'm saying is there are motions at a state level to make the expansion of internet easier, including, like sometimes there's boundaries where they say this is an area that goes to this company. They're making it much easier now for adjoining municipalities or whatever to expand into those areas if the other people, if the companies that have that area are not willing to expand as necessary to the people that are requesting it. And so there's some new stuff going on we're gonna wanna add into this discussion. I'll look at some of the stuff.
Thank you, Steve.
Yeah, invite everybody. So we have that as a motion. Any other discussion?
Yeah, I'd like, if, especially if we're looking at cost sharing with a company or something, I'd like some sort of agreement or commitment from them to say they'll expand, they'll lay so much new line a year going forward. Because we've got, it's kind of understandable if you think Byram's Fork, if you're right on the Union County line, it might take a while for them to get to you. But if you're on Irwin Mill or Mountain Road or somewhere where you're surrounded, everybody around you's got Comcast, and you're getting quoted $10,000 or $12,000 or $15,000 for it to come to your house. That just doesn't make any sense to me. So,
Well, what's interesting is when you find out all this money is actually all this is controlled by your public utility companies. Is that correct, Mayor? Like these grants and things, the broadband grants, you have to team up with another co-op or something like that? Like this Highland,
Well, so they're different, and it would be good to have a meeting to try to unravel it all. So,
because Commissioner McCamey
is-
was mentioning bringing CUB in on it too.
yes, so if a utility and their board chooses to get in the business, this was a big fight in the legislature many years ago, because there's so much demand to get broadband into communities. They passed enabling legislation to allow utilities to get into that business. But then it takes, your board, it takes an investment from the utility company, and then you have a lot of utilities that don't want to be in the broadband business. They want to be in the water and electric business. And so a lot of the funding grants, that's where you'll see a lot of the money come in at the local level, where people, like you have your county government, partners with this public utility in order to provide broadband. It's a little more complicated when you get into business with the private companies. And so, for instance, when we applied unsuccessfully years ago for the New River, Briceville area with AT&T, that was a no cost to Anderson County, but they needed our support, they needed our letters and our public hearing and all of that, but there wasn't any financial match for Anderson County. So I don't know what this particular, what they're looking at with Comcast, I don't know. So we'd have to look more, just like Jay's doing, so, yeah. Usually they tell you on the front end if it's a match scenario, because they're gonna count on that match, so.
Thank you. Anything else on that issue? Okay, the last thing I have for you is the Village Way approval. That's the last road in Arcadian Springs. It's on the Highway Committee agenda for Thursday. I expect no action of this body tonight. I'm putting it on there for information purposes only. You've got the deed dedication in your packet. That will, that's already been approved as of last Friday by the bank's attorney. Brad Hodge, so it's ready to go. And hopefully that'll be the end of Arcadian Springs for a while. I know it's great for that neighborhood, and I can't wait. If you're not familiar with Village Way, that's what they used to call the construction entrance. It's the one that's directly off 61 and goes right back to the mail center. We're not taking in the mail center. I've had that question. It's specifically outlined here. We're taking in only the roads, and the dimension of this is already in this document. So expect that to come to County Commission next Tuesday night, and I don't think we'll have a problem Thursday night with the Highway Committee, but if you have any questions, let me know. But I think we've got a good document, and the bank has already approved it. We will owe them $10, so I'll get with Robbie and get that to them.
I'll chip in.
All right, thank you. Any questions on that issue? That's all I have. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Jay. Any new business come before the committee? I just got a little announcement. Is last Friday, Dave Clark and Torch put together a meeting that we had at City Hall in Rocky Top. We had 28 people in attendance. These were all the movers and shakers. And Torch was there, Ridgeview was there, Dave Clark had his people there. And we talked about all the issues of the homeless that we have all over Anderson County. It's not just, Rocky Top. Of course, looks like there's more there, but it's in Oak Ridge, it's in Clinton. So he's putting all this together and did a great job putting that. We're going to start meeting like every 3 to 4 weeks. And we're going to, and I talked to Ron at WYSH, and we're going to start a week-long communication thing. So we'll start on a Monday, and we'll talk about what this group is trying to do, and then try to bring in different players, because we've identified like 4 different issues as far as the homeless, drug, mental problem, short-term, where people live in motels. They are listed as homeless, but they choose to live in the motels because that's all they can do. But there's so many issues, and that's how we're going to start combating it. But I think this group that he's put together is doing a great job. I mean, we can come up with some solutions to definitely help. And I just wanted to let everybody know about that. And then the other thing is Anderson County was represented well in the Super Bowl last night. Of course, that already turned my, MVP in for T. Higgins. But there's also another Oak Ridge High School was on the Rams team, too.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
One of their coaches.
Yeah, one of their coaches. Exactly. So, any old business come for this committee?
Just one.
That's one day.
Wanted to ask the mayor, and Mayor, I hope this is okay. I know we brought this up at the last commission meeting, but the letter to the state in regards to the Private Act 21-10-898, have you been able to do anything on that?
I've heard from Representative Reagan, and he said he files all his local bills in March.
Did you write a letter?
No, I just reached out to him electronically. I mean, I'm happy to write the full letter, like I told him I'm supposed to write an official letter, but I wanted to get his response.
Well, I think we all probably know the response, but that's okay. But one reason I made a motion was to get it in writing.
Sure.
And as we both know, in this political business, things don't get done unless you put it in writing. And I appreciate you calling them. But I could have called them and done the same thing. So what I did as an elected official was ask this body for a motion to get a letter drafted by you as the elected mayor of this county to ask our elected officials to respond. And as one thing I've learned since 2006 is if we don't really want to do something, we just kind of kick the can down the road. So, I'm a little bit disappointed that we didn't get the letter. I did the procedure the way it's supposed to be done, Robert's Rules of Order, and did what I asked. And, it's frustrating that the mayor of our county, our lieutenant governor, our state representatives that represent this county cannot respond to us. It's very frustrating. And it's okay to say no. It's okay to say, we believe because we're Republicans, it makes sense to have this. That's okay. Everyone knows this county and this state is a Republican state. I have zero problems with Republicans. What I have problems with is when any party takes away the right of citizens in our county without having any representation to discuss it, debate it. So, I'd like to see the letter, and if I have to make a motion at the Monday night's meeting, I'll make the motion again, and you can certainly get up on the podium and say that you called but
No, I
wanna see
did
a
tell
letter.
Representative Reagan that I would be sending a letter, so he knows that.
Well, where I probably made a mistake is I didn't put a date on there, so that's on me. So I'll put a date on it at Monday unless you have a letter Monday. That's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. Anything else come before the committee?
Josh, you wanna announce your town hall?
Sure, yeah. Next Monday, President's Day, 6 p.m. at Norris Community Center Gym. The Representative John Mark Wendell, who represents District 41, which is, I believe, after the November election, is going to be the new representative for Riceville, New River, Oliver Springs, Norris, Andersonville, just the northern section of the county.
On one side of the road.
On one side of the road.
Yeah.
He's agreed, he's gonna come out to a town hall that, District 3 is hosting, so.
What date is that?
That's, the 21st, February 21st, Monday at 6 p.m.
President's Day, did you
Yes,
say?
President's Day, since our commission meeting's not then, so if anybody wants to meet their new state representative, that'll be a good chance to do that. Everybody's welcome to come.
Okay. Anything else? Motion to adjourn?
Motion adjourned.
Thank you all very much. Good conversation, good discussion.